I can hardly describe driving through the complete devastation of my hometown. We passed dozens of familiar homes from over the years. Some of them had bullet holes, some had bent frames or broken glass, some had dead bodies in their front yards. I tried not to look at those for too long because I knew the faces, but it's hard to stop yourself from looking once you start, you know? I saw Alice. I saw Mr. Hollow. I saw neighbors. I saw friends. Some of them died running, some died fighting, but all of them seemed to end up the same way. In scattered bits and pieces, cast like trash, almost decorating their own immaculately made front lawns. My father drove the car. Only one road led us out of town, but it passed through a few hiccups along the way. The first was the supermarket on Grand Street, behind the two apartment complexes that tended to be crowded. The gas station on Main would allow us to fill up, but they didn't call it Main for nothing. And more people would almost certainly lead to more problems. All of these issues swirled around my head in unison, while the backdrop of my entire town carved up like origamis right in front of my face. And my dad, he didn't even seem fazed by it. He actually hummed for the first 10 minutes of the trip. My dad is not the type of man to hum. At first, I thought it might be a nervous thing, but then my mom started to join him. Guys? Mark glued himself to the car window. He wouldn't look at me, not even a shred of glance of misery. I knew from his reaction that something bad was about to happen. I guess I just didn't want to admit it to myself. Dad? My father slowed down around the grocery store. He pulled out into the lot unceremoniously, as if it were just another Tuesday, while the corpses of our neighbors lined the streets among us, clearly basking in the heat from the rising sun. I thought that we had hit one of them. What are we doing? I asked. Nobody answered me. Hello? My father parked the car. He leaned over to give my mom a peck on the forehead, and she nodded and smiled back. After a moment of silence, he gingerly unclipped the seatbelt and moved to get out. Nobody even bothered to stop him. Dad! I shouted. Wait, are you serious? You can't go out there! He smiled at me one last time. Looking back, I like to think that there was still some small part of my dad in that smile. He looked like a weight had just been lifted off his shoulders, like he had gotten us this far, like his job was done. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I only saw the scratch when he got up, right above the belt, hip to hip. His shirt had always been tucked. My mother took a deep breath. Mom? I whispered. Mom, no, please. She looked back at me and grasped my hands. She was cold to the touch. Mark whimpered something small, and I knew then that he knew all along. It happened the first night, he whispered. They can't fight it anymore, Maddie. It won't let them. The car door opened. Mom, you can't go out there. She pulled her hand away. Mom, please! It's okay, honey, she murmured dreamily. Okay, honey? Okay, honey. She got out of the car and sprinted after my father. I've never seen my mother sprint before. She looked so strange doing it. I watched the two of them go towards the store, hand in hand. In a moment, they were there, and then the next, they were gone. We have to follow them, I begged. Please! A soft boom sounded from somewhere inside. Okay, he whispered hesitantly, but be ready to run when I say run. Deal? A second boom followed. Deal, I muttered. I'm the oldest, he insisted. We don't know what we're going to see inside of there. You have to listen to me. Shut up and let's go! We hopped out of the car and ran across the empty lot. Rain and heavy wind swooped in with our arrival. Mark slipped and fell in a particularly nasty pool of blood. I raced back to help him up, but by the time that we both made it inside, our parents were gone. We looked around for a minute. The store seemed to be shelled. Overturned shelves made it difficult to get around. Smeared floors made the entire place stink worse than a slaughterhouse. At the center of the store was a staircase that leads to the basement level. Normally, larger items like water jugs are stored down there. We got the distinct feeling that we weren't totally alone, because we could hear some kind of movement in that area, so we moved towards it. Mark found some cover behind a blown-out register, and we used it to peek behind the staircase. And an enormous pit sat below us. We couldn't actually see where it ended. Mark picked up a can and dropped it. 10 to 15 seconds later, it made contact with the bottom. The closer we inched towards the center, the more that movement seemed rhythmic. It was pulsating, almost like a heartbeat. We heard footsteps. Mark ripped my collar and pulled me back. Approaching the center of the store was a man and a woman, who both looked familiar to me from different places. That was my first thought, you know? That they must have been together without me realizing that it really was a small city after all. The couple walked up casually to the edge of the pit. They looked at each other and smiled. And then they jumped, hand in hand as if expecting to land in a ball pit. But the splat came after the boom. And then the store seemed quiet. Something seemed to be slurping down below. "Oh, dude, what the fuck?" Mark whispered. "You don't think that it drinks blood?" Suddenly, the pulsing grew louder. A horrible scraping ripped from somewhere below it. I can't even adequately describe the sound. It was almost like a giant moth breaking its way out of a cocoon. A familiar rhythm to the din then took over. It's checking for weaknesses, Mark muttered. "Even at birth." "It's time to go," Mark shouted. "Definitely," I answered. Each of us put in our best track performances to date. The building gave way as if an earthquake were underneath it. We skidded out from the front entrance just as the overhanging dipped down to smash the carousel door. My brother got to the car before me. He jumped into the driver's seat and thank God the keys were still in the ignition. He smashed the gas and all but left me with the passenger door popped open. I hopped in at the last possible moment, and then the store collapsed behind me. Mark didn't know shit about driving, and to be fair, neither do I, but any idiot can hit the gas and steer away from an explosion. We picked up speed while debris rocked the car. Just as we got back onto the road, Mark pointed into the rear view, and I wish that he didn't. Standing in the wake of the grocery store was a creature 3 times its size. I didn't look at it twice. We managed to drive to the gas station before nightfall. We found it pretty much untouched. I don't think anybody else has made it this far. We took to the mountain road into the next town and drove past sundown. We're safe and sound in a place called White Valley. The people here are friendly, but none of them, including the sheriff, can tell me a damn thing about Fulton or what's been happening for the past few days. Go figure, right? I hope more than anything that my post can help drive more survivors out of the woodwork. Please, please message me if you or someone you know lived through the attack on Fulton City. I can't overstress the importance of that place. We cannot let our town be forgotten. One day we'll go back. I don't care if it's just Mark and me. I know we can find the entrance the same way we found the exit. I don't expect to find anybody alive. That's just hope that's not worth having. But we all have a right to know what's living there instead. Signing off for now. Matt. Hello, my brood. It's been a while. For that, I am sorry. I guess I did not command loyalty as much as I thought I did. For one of you thought I took my actions too far. And when I went to Salem to relive my glory days, I was met with a platoon of angels headed by Uriel. Of all of them. Of course, it was Uriel. The ensuing battle left me nearly dead. Yes, of course, I didn't go down without taking a few of those angelic brown nosers with me. That being said, I did almost die. And for that, the betrayal was met with a fitting punishment. I do hope you all enjoyed that time loop story. It wasn't a planned part of Feastober, but you all never cease to amaze me with how much you wish to participate in adding to my collection. Of course, Fulton City wasn't planned either, but that's what I like to call a happy little accident. It's where I ended up. I put up a cloaking barrier to hide myself, and ended up hiding the entire city as well. Uriel couldn't find me, and I found myself a perfect place to heal, nourish my wounds, and of course, release a new experiment that I'd been working on for a while. I am very sorry to Matt. Truly, this never would have happened had some people simply minded their business. But now I'm back, and feeling better than ever. That being said, I fear that Feastober is almost over regardless. But don't worry, we'll end this with a bang. So, for all my broodlings who have enjoyed everything up until now, prepare yourself. I think I'm going to take a trip to the Appalachians, clear my mind from all this humbug that I've been going through this last week. Until then, my broodlings, have a wonderful night and a happy Hallows Eve.